Alright, this is a big one. Because I feel like a lot of you still neglect looks, and this is going to be another scolding on you guys that still feel that way. And it's going to be about being how being unattractive makes people feel really unsafe around you, especially if you're like 30 to 40. Like if you're, I don't know. I feel like if you're 30 to 40 years old, that's like where you should, if you weren't in shape in your 20s or look good in your 20s, you never got your peak. You never made it to your prime. So sucks to suck. But I'm gonna explain on how people in their 40s and 30s are ridiculed more if they don't look presentable or good. Good, actually, not presentable, because there's a difference. Good, rather than being younger and not looking good. Because, okay, so this is a story that happened to me actually the other day. So there were these kids, right? And sometimes I go to this park to work out. Like I'll go like do pull-ups and stuff on like the monkey bars or that little pole they have. And I did that the other day. And I get, it's a playground. There are kids there, and I'm working out. And so like, there's this mom with her kids, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna work out right here. Like, is that cool with you? Mind you, I'm shirtless, and I'm like, I'm in my 20s. I'm shirtless. Like, I have a good physique, but I mean, it's kind of creepy, just random dude rolls up on a mom and her kids. Like, the mom's like, what? Random shirtless dude, and her kids are right there. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, is it okay if I just work out right here? Like, do you care if I do this? And she's like, no, go do your thing. Like, you're fine. I was like, okay, cool. So, mind you, Indian mom as well, Indian. And very protective of their kids usually. So, their kids are running rampant. They were just doing whatever, they were kind of like crazy. They were kind of misbehaving. And, I'm doing my thing. And, there's this other family. I don't know if it was just the dad. I didn't see the mom, but it was just the dad. And he was with this girl. And he was with, I'm assuming he was his daughter, Typical 40-year-old man, overweight, heavyset, beanie, stubble, gray, like stubble, beard, beanie, overcoat, just kind of looking around, look like a normal 40-year-old dude, Anyway, mind you, nothing special is what I'm trying to say. Like, he was normal looking, but he was normal. I'm doing my thing. Her kids randomly come up to me, and her kids are like, because I'm doing my workout, and her kids are like, they're both boys, and they come up to me, and one of them's like, dude, you're like, whoa, you're really strong. And I'm like, kids just say random things. So I was like, oh, thank you. And her kids were like coming up to me, and he's like, can I touch your arm? Like, her kid just started touching my arm and stuff, and I was like, oh, like, I didn't care, but like, I didn't want the mom to think I was trying to, whatever with her kids. Like, I was afraid that she would get the wrong thing, like, wrong vibe about me. So I was like, kind of looking over at the mom every time the kid would touch me, like backing away, like, look, I'm not trying to touch your kids, I'm not trying to do anything with your kids. So I back up a little bit, and the kid, let me see your arm. He keeps trying to, grab it. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I look at the mom, and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not. And I look over at the mom, and she just has this like really woeful, like longful look in her eyes. Like, she didn't look like any like alarm bells were raised, anything like that. And I'm like kind of like confused, like, why is she looking at me like that? And then she kind of comes up to me, and she just kind of is like, wow, you're so good with them. Like, you're so good with kids. And I'm like, what? Like, hello? Your kids are literally like climbing on me at this point. And if I was a mom and that happened to me, some random dude, I'd be like really like, no, this is not okay. Get away from my kids, Like, that's just how even if I wasn't doing anything wrong, that's just how moms are. So I'm like, oh, like, thank you. And she's like, how old are you? And I tell her I'm in my 20s. And she's like, oh, wow, like, do you have any siblings or anything like that? Like, you're really good with kids. Like, wow. Just, like, in a way, it was like she was, like, calling me husband material without calling me husband material, So, I'm standing there thinking this is really weird. Like, this is super strange, right? And just to make matters weirder, dude who's with his daughter sitting at the bench kind of far away from us is there, and he's relatively far, right? Like, not far enough to where you can't talk to him, but far enough to where he's not a threat. And I don't know what happened to his daughter, if she ran off or something, so he's sitting there by himself now. Now, I know he has a daughter, I know he has a daughter. She, maybe, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, maybe she didn't see the daughter, maybe she had no clue. Dude gets up and, like, no, he had the stroller next to him. So yeah, no, they literally, okay, she had to have known he had a kid. Dude gets up and starts moving the stroller, like, a little bit closer to her and her kids. And she immediately sees him, runs up, grabs her kids, and like gets them all close to her and like protecting them, and like looks at him weird. And dude just kind of looks at her and is like, okay, like backs up and walks away, you know. And she like looks at him, and I'm looking at her and like watching this whole thing, and she looks up at me and she's like, she starts laughing and she's like, yeah, you can never be too safe, you know, with these creeps around here. And I'm like, what? Here I am with no shirt on. Your kids were literally practically climbing me like a mountain. And you're over here asking me, telling me I'm good with kids and that I'm great and how awesome I am and how you weren't expecting me to be. You're so good with your kids. Dude who's not even in earshot moves away a little bit or moves a little bit closer with the stroller, and you immediately go fight or flight mode. And then it dawned on me. Dude looked like your typical 40-year-old man. And when you think about what your typical 40-year-old man looks like, white, heavy-set, gray stubble beard, you know, beanie, glasses, just the mix, he looks like someone who would maybe come try to take a kid, you know, try to grab a kid. Think about your average 40-year-old man right now. Dude probably looks like he'd be someone who would try to grab a kid. Someone who you don't want kids predominantly around. And that dawned on me. I was like, dude, I look attractive. So that's why she's trusting me around her kids. Everything that I did is way worse than what this guy did. But because of the way I look, she's going to perceive it in a predominantly positive way, as opposed to him doing the most minor thing and her perceiving it in the most of like negative ways, you know? And it just like boggled my mind. So I left a little while after, but it just stuck with me. I was like, dude, it was another form of encouragement. It's funny. It's like I have different forms of encouragement for staying in shape or staying attractive, and that's one of them. Being someone who is literally ridiculed and maybe even put in a situation where people assume you're a criminal or someone who like would take a kid or something, like I don't know what she thought he was gonna do, but someone bad, you know? If you're not in shape or you don't look good and you're older, you're going to be perceived as someone bad, someone who women and children do not want to frequent around. And I don't think anybody wants that. And if you're suffering that fate and you're not even anybody who's like bad or anything like that, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry. That's all I can really say is I'm sorry. But you put yourself in that position, and at the same time, it's got to be a terrible place to be. You know, it's just got to be a terrible place to be because dude did nothing wrong, and I in my opinion, everything wrong. And I'm seen as like the golden boy, and he's seen as someone who wanted to snatch her kids. That's all I'm gonna say, simply because of the looks. Yeah.